Hey, good morning, y'all. Josh's Severe Weather. I hope you all having a great start to 2023. I know my resolutions are right in front of me, but they say that the New Year's resolution goes in one year and out the other. So, anyway, let's get right to it. We've got some dangerous weather unfolding across parts of the southern United States, and we've been talking about a 3-day severe weather outbreak here. And I am going to pull up the current radar, and you all can see this is probably going to be the biggest tornado watch you might ever see. This is across western parts of Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwest Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, and northern Louisiana, in effect until 11 a.m. this morning. And right now, as of this recording, 6 a.m. Central, 7 Eastern, we see quite a bit of rain falling right along the Mississippi River and into western Tennessee. Flash flood warnings in effect, basically across a 400-mile line from southern Arkansas right into western Kentucky. This is Radar Scope Pro. You can see red polygons are tornado warnings. Yellow polygons are severe thunderstorm warnings, and green ones are flash flood warnings. So right now, flash flood warnings are dominating the map, but we do have severe weather moving through the Memphis metro area with a tornado warning in effect. That is until 6:15 a.m. for northeastern DeSoto County, northwestern Mississippi. There have been quite a few tornado warnings so far out of this outbreak, going right back from the western part of Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma yesterday, and now into Kentucky and Tennessee today. Here's our graphic showing the area of the tornado outbreak expected to be ongoing as you're watching this video. And I believe of the 3 days of this outbreak, the worst of the weather is going to occur this afternoon and especially tonight over parts of Dixie Alley. So we're talking about east central Mississippi, southern Mississippi, southwest, and especially central Alabama that has the strongest risk for a stronger tornado, EF2 or higher. The area in orange surrounding it, which includes Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Pensacola, Macon, Georgia, maybe even Atlanta, Birmingham, and Jackson, has the risk for damaging winds and a few tornadoes as well in two waves later today as well as overnight tonight. And that carries tomorrow into Georgia. The area in yellow will have some potential severe weather, but I don't think the threat for ongoing tornadoes is going to be nearly as high. There could be some tornado warnings as the morning continues here across Kentucky and Tennessee and northwest Mississippi. And then as we get into later tonight, that starts to fade as we get into East Tennessee and western North Carolina. But we could have a few tornado warnings and maybe even a watch out for parts of the foothills and western Piedmont of North Carolina, South Carolina, down through the upstate and into parts of central and eastern Georgia and northern Florida as well. The threat for severe weather does start to wane later tomorrow across the eastern Carolinas and down into northeastern Florida and central Florida. But nonetheless, something that I will be watching for you again tomorrow. So this is the big part of the storm. We also have a wintry side that I'll be showing you all with lots of snow falling in Nebraska, South Dakota, and northwest Iowa. And ice continuing across Nebraska, Iowa, and into Wisconsin. And I'm going to show you guys that as well here in just a little bit. Storm reports so far out of this outbreak, I'm going to be honest, I would have expected to see a little bit more than what we've seen. But nonetheless, we did have a tornado last night touch down near Jonesboro, Louisiana, some damage possible there. Also a tornado report out of western Tennessee and a lot of wind damage reports. So there could be some tornadoes out of these reports as surveys will be done later on today into tomorrow. But so far, the outbreak has not matured quite as much as maybe a lot of us thought. I'm going to be honest about that with you all because I don't want to lie about it. But nonetheless, that does not mean this storm is called off by any stretch. In fact, if you've watched any of my videos recently talking about tornado ingredients and areas that have been getting hit the most, and if you look back to even like the week before Christmas time, you'll know that this area in here seems to be a hot spot recently in a La Nina for tornadoes. So we're talking Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and even Northwest Florida. And I do think as we get through the day today, and especially tonight, we're going to see additional tornado reports. Some of those may even be stronger tornadoes, EF2 and EF3. The Storm Prediction Center has an enhanced risk for severe weather, and that is primarily for significant tornadoes, anywhere from Ascension and East Baton Rouge Parish all the way over into Jefferson Parish spreading across the Florida parishes into the southern part of Mississippi and into central and southern Alabama. This will begin this afternoon down in here, and then there'll be two waves this afternoon and tonight across Mississippi and Alabama. And of course, I'm most concerned about tornadoes that occur after dark. So I believe the threat will be greatest in eastern Mississippi, western and central Alabama after dark tonight. The threat for severe weather does continue, though, farther north into middle Tennessee and eventually into western Georgia in two waves, one late this afternoon, the other later on tonight, including the Atlanta metro area, Columbus, Georgia, and down to about Crestview, Florida. Tomorrow, we still have a threat for some tornadoes. It's not going to be nearly as great. I'll be honest with you, I don't think the threat's going to be quite as high when you get east of Interstate 85 tomorrow, but something I'll be watching for you as we have a line of storms that'll move through central parts of South Carolina and North Carolina late in the morning tomorrow, continuing into the afternoon hours, moving into the Tidewater and coast regions here of South Carolina, North Carolina. But I think the threat for tornadoes will be highest in central Georgia and in central parts of the eastern panhandle of Florida during the morning tomorrow, and then the threat starts to wane after that. We'll show you the HRRR model here. That's a significant tornado parameter. It factors in instability as well as wind shear, and where amounts are higher, we of course have the higher threat for significant tornadoes. You'll see that it's on the lower side, but there is still a threat for some tornadoes here this morning across Tennessee and especially Mississippi and Louisiana, right along the Mississippi River. This is 8 a.m. Central Time, 9, 10, 11 a.m. We start to see an increase in potential activity. I'm not really sure we're going to see tornadoes across Missouri, but there is a chance for severe wind and maybe an isolated tornado. But the main line seems to be the main focus for tornadoes this morning. And that spreads across eastern Florida parishes, Louisiana, greater New Orleans, and up to about Meridian, Starkville, and Columbus, Mississippi, right around 1 o'clock Central Time. And then moving into Alabama as we get later into the afternoon, there'll be a second area of tornadoes to keep an eye on, potentially developing back in Mississippi earlier this evening, around 8, 9 o'clock, and that spreads into parts of western Alabama. So you can see how the parameters increase. Part of that's due to a second disturbance that's following this main batch of rain, and part of it's due to increasing low-level winds, which can fuel more spin near the lower atmosphere. So the area I think that's going to be under the gun the most will be later on this evening, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. right around the Birmingham and Montgomery areas. So this area certainly is a tornado magnet. It's Dixie Alley. And I do think late tonight we do have the potential for maybe a stronger tornado somewhere in Alabama. And then that threat starts to wane, but still carries into the 4 and 5 a.m. hours of the morning in far eastern Alabama and western and northern parts of Georgia. And then the threat for tornadoes does start to wane a bit as we head into tomorrow morning across the CSRA areas of South Carolina and Georgia, and then down into central and southern Georgia, as well as the Tallahassee area. Notice those numbers do start to come down a little bit tomorrow, especially here in the southeast. But I say southeast in the low country of Georgia and South Carolina, but we do have maybe a second area to keep an eye on around Charlotte, maybe up to Greensboro, Winston-Salem, and Mount Airy. That will start to diminish, though, as it hits some more stable air here across eastern parts of North Carolina and Virginia. And by tomorrow around 6, 7 o'clock Eastern time, we do see the threat for widespread severe weather. It looks like it'll be coming to an end for the most part, just some heavy rain at that point. All right, here is a look at the radar across the deep south. This is the HRRR model. You guys can see kind of how things are going to be playing out here. And let me move us back here to this morning here. You guys can see this big area of heavy rainfall from Louisiana up into western Kentucky. We do have a few isolated bow echoes here where winds can come out a little bit stronger, and there can be an isolated tornado later this morning. And that will likely be between Memphis and Nashville, Tennessee, as well as across Greenwood, maybe getting close to Tupelo, Mississippi. And this area lifts northeast and weakens. There's a second area that forms, though, back across the New Orleans and Covington, Mandeville areas. That spreads north and east all the way up to about Tuscaloosa, Alabama, later on towards midday and early afternoon. That area will be watched for potential supercells, which can produce tornadoes. Then a second area will possibly form back around the Jackson, Mississippi area to near Meridian this evening, so 9, 10 o'clock, and then that spreads eastward across central Alabama. And you guys can see on the HRRR some supercell storms here between Huntsville and northern Alabama. This is 2 a.m. Central down to between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, and all the way down into western and southern parts of Alabama and southeast Mississippi. This is the area I'm most concerned about for nocturnal tornadoes, some of which could end up being stronger than EF1 up to EF2 and EF3s. So not the kind that are going to be national headliners, but nonetheless the kind that will be dangerous. Any tornado will be dangerous, of course. As we get into the nighttime hours, we have heavy rain on top of that, rain-wrapped tornadoes. If you are in Mississippi, Alabama, western Georgia, northwest Florida, and eastern Louisiana, please have multiple ways of getting tornado warnings tonight. This will be a potentially major outbreak for some folks, but not a high-risk situation, but still we will have tornadoes embedded within these storms, and I'm very concerned about that, as most of it's coming during the nighttime hours. Now, farther to the east, sorry, my models keep moving us forward here in time. They reload from Weather Bell. So I wanted to show you all the 6Z because that one goes out beyond 18 hours. But this is later this afternoon and into tonight. You can see some heavier storms possible south of Atlanta and to about Columbia, South Carolina, but there's just some rain over western and central North Carolina. Now, the second wave that I'm talking about does move into the Atlanta area here right around sunrise tomorrow, 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. We could have a few tornado warnings in the Atlanta area down to about Auburn, Alabama. As we get later into the morning, there will be somewhat of an enhancement and chance for a few stronger storms over the eastern Florida panhandle around 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern time, 8 Central, and across Georgia, southwestern and central Georgia from the 8 to 10 a.m. hours. If you are upstate in South Carolina and near and to the west of Charlotte, you'll have to watch this line of storms tomorrow morning. We will lose some of the instability that we'll have across Alabama and Georgia, but we will still have strong enough winds aloft and some wind shear to fuel the potential for some stronger storms. And there may be a few tornado warnings within this line of storms. So that's what I'm watching for you guys. It does look like by the time it gets to about Raleigh and Camden and Sumter, South Carolina, there should be some wane in this line of storms. The air up here is going to be more stable, but there could be some locally strong wind gusts all the way up to about the northern neck of Virginia tomorrow early in the afternoon. As we get into the afternoon tomorrow, I think severe weather starts to be on the wane. We may still have a few storms to keep an eye on across the low country of Georgia and South Carolina, but Florida, most of this energy goes by to your north. I don't think we see more than just a few showers in places like Jacksonville and Ocala by tomorrow evening. So that is the warm side of this storm. I did want to talk about the cold side. Ice is going to be continuing to be a problem as we get through the next 24 hours across parts of northern Iowa, eastern Nebraska, and in particular south and east of Minneapolis towards La Crosse and up towards Wausau, Wisconsin. And if you're in Ontario and northern New York and parts of Michigan, you could see some light to moderate freezing rain as well. A lot of that's going to be falling overnight tonight and into Wednesday and Wednesday night. We also have quite a bit of snow falling. I'll show you the Kuchera. It's probably going to be a little bit too high, but nonetheless, we're seeing snow rates enhancing now in north central Nebraska with 1 to 2 inch per hour snow rates likely to occur throughout the morning today, spreading into Minnesota and then northwest Wisconsin by this afternoon. And then tonight, heavy snow over northern Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. There is a potential for 1 to 2 feet of snow across a narrow band here from near the Missouri River Valley parts of South Dakota and Nebraska, straight on through the Twin Cities and into northwestern parts of upper Michigan. This will be a significant snowfall. Farther south and east, some snow possible wrapping around here towards Chicago, but very little accumulation by the time we get through this. We'll show you rainfall, and the Weather Prediction Center is predicting 4 to 5 inches of rain through these bands of continuous thunderstorms today and tonight over central and eastern Alabama, as well as southwestern Georgia. There could be flash flooding coming out of this. In the northeast, we're also looking at significant rainfall amounts of 1 to 2 inches. In between, so basically Virginia to the Delmarva and mid-Atlantic region, not nearly as much rain, as most of it kind of skips by in two pieces off to the north and then as well down to the south. And then finally, let's take a look at the GFS model. We've got yet another series of storm systems. I'll show you on Tropical Tidbits because it's a little easier to follow. This storm, which spins through the Great Lakes, will weaken and move out to the east. We have yet another atmospheric river moving into northern Cal here the next couple of days. Storm after storm after storm as we continue to get battered with heavy rainfall. The eastern U.S. will turn cooler behind this storm. There will be maybe a potential inland snowfall event, fairly light though, across the Midwest and the upper parts of the Northeast here over the weekend. Cooler air follows. We'll keep an eye down south for potential trouble, but I think this next wave is not going to be as severe. We'll have to keep an eye on a storm which may try to come up the coast here towards next weekend. But really, all the action is going to be across the west with some potentially heavier snow spreading through the Rockies and then into the upper Midwest. We'll keep an eye on the Gulf Coast again in a couple weeks here for maybe some more severe weather. But if you look at the GFS and you look at total precipitation, notice how numbers start ramping up tomorrow night over Northern California and then across the Sierra Nevada. And then another storm batters Northern Cal. And as we get through the next 15 days or so, there is likely to be a widespread area that gets over a foot of rain. And of course, in the Sierra Nevada, that's snow. So many areas in here are picking up between 60 and 120 inches of fresh snow over the ski areas of the Siskiyou, Sierra Nevada. Also in the Northwest, Seattle, maybe not so much heavy rain, but parts of Vancouver Island and northwestern Washington and southwest Oregon could see significant amounts of rain and heavy mountain snow, and flash flooding will be a concern as well. But from what I've heard from some of you in California, even though we're dealing with some major flooding, a lot of you are seeing this as a positive in that the atmospheric river is bringing beneficial rain that's bringing this significant long-term drought we've been in to a close potentially here by the end of January. So I really appreciate y'all's time. Please, if you could, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to provide you with more videos as severe weather continues to be an issue here through the night tonight and tomorrow. And we'll talk about wintry weather and when it may impact the southern and eastern United States later in the month of January. It seems like it's a ways off with this warm spell we're in, but it is coming again as we are just a month into wintertime. So I really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you so much for joining me today. And my thoughts and prayers are with those of you in the South that are dealing with severe weather. I know that certainly these can be troubling times. And when we're dealing with tornadoes and flooding, a lot of people's lives are impacted and on the line. So I am praying for you guys to stay safe. I'm going to the Bible real quick to say a quick prayer from Psalm 57, and that is, "Have mercy on me, my God, have mercy on me, for in you I take refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed. I cry out to the God Most High, to God who vindicates me. He sends from heaven and saves me, rebuking those who hotly pursue me. God sends forth his love and his faithfulness." And basically what that means to me is that we're all going to continue to face storms in our life, whether it be weather or other things that may come up, but putting our faith in God, he will be saving us through his son, Jesus Christ. So if you have any prayers that you would like for me to say for you, I'm happy to do so. This is a community. It's not just me spouting out weather to you guys. This is a way for me to connect those of you who are concerned about the weather to what I think is most important, and that's God through his son, Jesus Christ. I really appreciate y'all's time. I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. If you're heading back to work or school today, please be safe if you're in the South. And my mind is on all of those who are down south dealing with the severe weather here once again over the next 24 to 36 hours. God bless you all. Have a great day.